Yes, my G's. This is what I call the call and response trifector, the call and response lead trifector. I wanted to show you a little technique today, something that I have done in some of my tracks before, something that I often do when I'm struggling to think of good ideas for call and response, what sounds to use. And basically, I like to sometimes just make a call and response pattern with a bass, with two basses, which I'll show you in a minute. And then I like to have a lead as well at the same time that's sort of playing almost in between the call and response notes of the bass, you know? So I leave some gaps in my bass line and then I fill up the gaps with the lead. And the lead is a little bit more further in the background. It's more like a middle ground kind of lead, you know? And this is a technique that's, quite popular in drum and bass, Neurofunk, other genres as well probably. But yeah, it's something that I unconsciously often do, and I thought I'd break it down on a video. So here's the little loop that I've got going on. And let's break it down. So I've just got a break here, and then I've got the first bass here, and these are all patches from my latest Vital pack, Defiance, which is out now and on sale as a launch special until Sunday night. So make sure you grab a copy. This one is called The Nice Touch. Okay, so I use it as the call, and then it has this sort of longer showcase towards the end here. My second bass is the surprising lag. Okay, so let's put them together now, and then you can hear the call and response pattern. Okay, so with the beat as well. So yeah, that's the surprising lag. It's really nice sort of bassy stabs with a lot of character in. Great stuff. And then, as you kind of hear, if you listen to the bass line, it's quite funky, and I've got a lot of gaps in between the call and response parts, you know? So what I basically wanted to do was fill those gaps in with a lead. So I used another a lead from my pack, which is called Ghost Bumps, and that one I wrote a little more of a melody on this one because it's a lead, you know. I kept the bass fairly straightforward. When you take a look at the bass lines, the first note is in D, and then this sort of repeats over here with D again. And then on this sort of fill, I've got an F and an F sharp. And the surprising lag just jumps around between D and D sharp. So just using the semitones to create like a bit of tension and dissonance, you know? Okay, so when you play that, oh, sorry. What do I need to explain? The lead, as I mentioned, I made more of a melody on it, okay? So yeah, the bass was fairly simple. It had that sort of fill change at the end, and the second kind of surprising lag response had this sort of semitone pattern, but mostly still around D, you know? But with the lead, I kind of go up and down and take you on a bit of a journey with it. So we go up to that D sharp, then we jump up to F sharp, back down to F, back to the D sharp again, then the D, then D sharp again, and then the D sharp one more time to finish on some nice tension, you know? So that's got a bit of a longer melody that you enjoy for the whole 4 bars. It doesn't really resolve until the whole thing, you know? So the basses, they're kind of just like playing around the root note always, and the melody is taking you on a bit more of a journey there, you know? So playing it all together again. A couple of extra tips. So obviously one of the reasons why it kind of works with the lead here in the gaps is obviously there's more space for it, you know. There's parts here where the lead overlaps with this fill bass at the end. But we really don't get hung up on that. We could sidechain it if we wanted to, but again, the lead is more of a middle ground thing. So it's not really naturally conflicting so much with the bass. So yeah, you kind of hear it a bit less in this part, but you know, do we need to sidechain it out there with multi-band sidechaining? That's up to you, really. You could take it or leave it for that kind of thing, in my opinion, you know? But the other thing is to note why it also works is the contrasts, right? So these two basses, they have quite a contrasting sound because the nice touch has more of this like aggressive grit on top, and it sort of starts quite sustained. And the surprising lag kind of like has a bit of an attack as it comes up, a bit of a wub as it comes up, and then the final sort of tone on it all is like a little bit damper. I would say it's a little bit damper. It doesn't quite have that like high energy fizz that the first bass does. So there's already a bit of contrast there. They're both like powerful basses. They're both in the foreground and in your face, but there's a contrast between the two because they do have slightly different characters. And yeah, one of them is a bit brighter than the other, and the movements are sort of slightly different. And yeah, so there's contrast involved there. And there's also contrast when we bring in the lead, because the lead, very delayed and reverbed, and it does sound like it's further away. So there's a sort of contrast in the depth between everything, you know? So the basses are really up close and personal, and the lead is more behind them in this part, playing more of a supporting role, you know? So that's the main thing, really, just to pay attention to the sort of the way that we create the clarity by having that sort of contrasting textures, contrasting sounds, and yeah, contrasting depth placements as well. Okay, so the basses are up front, the two strikers doing all the work, you know, and the lead is kind of like the midfield section, you know. So what I've also done on the lead is it doesn't have quite as much bass in either. So I've taken a bit of bass out. Just because that it's all this sort of long reverb and delay will inevitably conflict with all the bass, the low end of the bass, you know. So yeah, essentially taking a bit of that out basically just clears the mix up like nice and cheaply and quickly, you know. If I wanted to get really super like obsessed about it, you know, I could do some multi-band sidechaining to get it perfect as well. But this demo is more of just yeah, a way to just give you some sort of conceptual ideas about composition, essentially, you know. So what else I've done is, just for this demo, I've just slapped on a little sidechain on everything. So I've grouped up the leads, the basses and the lead together in one group, and then I've just slapped on a wonderful sidechain from the low end of the kick. So I'm triggering from this sort of ghost channel where there's no output. I've just sort of chopped where the kicks are in the break, and I've set that as the sidechain input, and then it just sort of wonderfully takes out everything with a nice low shelf. Great, you know, sidechaining from 0 up to 177, and then a little bit further with the Q nice and low. So you can see the Q actually brings it almost up to almost 500 and above where it's sidechaining, but it becomes more subtle there, you know. And I like that sort of sloping sidechain because realistically, you know, that's how a kick drum kind of takes up the mix. You know, it takes up the most at the bottom, and then as you get closer to 500 hertz or so, then it's slightly less conflicting with the bass, but still a little bit, you know. So I like that sort of low shelf technique. So that's just sort of for the demo to make it a bit clearer for you guys. And then I just slammed on a bit of distortion in the high end on everything in the bass and lead group, 1.4K and above, 6 or 7 dB drive, and just mixing that in. What that also does, not only does it add a bit of extra clarity in a high end presence and saturation just for volume's sake, but it'll also actually subtly sort of gels and glues everything together, you know, because it's just it's a subtle way to sort of keep all the dynamics intact, but add this sort of like this. It's got a slight color on the kilohertz distortion, you know, so the slight coloring in the high end on everything, it kind of gels it all together, so it makes it feel more like one track as well, you know. So anyway, but that's me rambling about processing stuff. I wanted to make this a compositional video, but yeah, that's one sort of call and response and lead combination you can use. So basically, get a nice call and response pattern with some basses. Don't have to go over the top with the notation. Just make sure they're nice and funky, and there's a nice contrast between the two sounds, but they kind of feel like they also fit. You know, they're sort of talking to each other. Then use a lead more in the middle ground, further behind and in the gaps, and have that also contrasting the other sounds. You know, a bit softer, for example, in this one. And then then you've got a nice hook going on. You know. So that's building a nice hook, and then you can expand it out many different ways, add effects, do loads of kind of crazy stuff, but you've got a hook there just from 4 sounds that is something workable and a concept for a song, you know? So I hope you guys enjoyed that today. If you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me because I know that half of the people that watch these videos aren't subscribed. And if only you would do that, it would help me get this information out to more people, so more people can just, get free of those creative ruts that they find themselves in often, you know, because sometimes it's just great to have a bit of YouTube inspiration and then turn that into action. That's how I approach YouTube as well. I'm always learning things on YouTube, and when I find something that I learn and it inspires me, not necessarily in music production, because I'm quite well, you know, experienced in that already, but in other things on YouTube, whatever it may be, it's a great learning platform, you know. So find the inspiration from something and then apply the action. So I hope you can do that today as well. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a comment down below if you thought this video was useful. And a couple of quick notes before I go. I'll try and keep this short, but I have links below. Basically, you've got preset packs on my website. This one, Vital Pack, on sale now. Brand new one, 50 new sounds. Loads of other packs on there as well. You've got one-on-one production lessons available with me. I've taught over 150 people in my life. I'm pretty damn good at it by now. I wouldn't say that publicly on the internet unless I believed it was true. So if you want to level up fast, come and book a lesson with me. Thirdly, if you need mixing and mastering, I'm also damn good at that too. If you want your next track to sound like the best release that you've ever released in terms of the sound quality, and you want some proper mastering on it, send me an email for that. And finally, if you want to jump into my music production community, we've got actually 400 members on my Patreon. You can actually join already for free, and then later, if you feel like you want to upgrade to the other tiers, then you can come and upgrade and jump in our private Discord. But definitely join on there for free anyway, because I do drop some samples and stuff and give some sort of updates for things about the channel on the free part of my Patreon tier as well. So thank you very much for watching today, my G's. There'll be more from me very soon. Take care and much love.